I think, for example, hang on. I think, well, okay, you can answer, but I'll add this to it. I'll add this to it. Well, let me add this to it.
I wonder if the reason he gets so sensitive about these questions, I wonder if it has something to do with what happened to him in the last few months. Oh boy. Joe Biden has approved long-range missile strikes into Russia, and Russia has launched an intermediate-range ballistic missile at Ukraine. Holy shit. Now, while the streets and regular life here in the West might seem business as usual, Twitter/X and the world of MAGA is upside down. Joe Biden is doing this intentionally to sabotage Trump, and he's doing this intentionally so there won't be a peace deal, and World War III will happen, and then maybe Joe Biden won't have to hand over power to Trump. Here we have a panel on Piers Morgan, composed of our good friend and former part of Tenet Media, Benny Johnson, former United States Air Force veteran and YouTuber Jake Broe, author Scott Horton, and Brigadier General Mark Kimmitt. This is going to be fun. I'm going to go over some of the thoughts on this panel, and I'm going to give you some additional insight and context or correct any misinformation I see. So let's dive right in.
You go talk to anyone at a MAGA rally, they'll tell you the exact same thing. This is one of the most unifying issues in America right now, is that Americans are done having our greatest treasure, which is the lives of Americans, poured into countries that are not our own, defending territories and borders that are not our own. And I'll say this, it is suicidal for Joe Biden on his way out to sabotage a peace that President Trump has promised to bring to this region, and I hope he does, because an ugly peace is better than a hot war.
A few things to note here. Firstly, American troops are not deployed in active duty and fighting directly against Russian soldiers right now. I know Benny is referencing previous conflicts such as Iraq and Afghanistan wars, but this is a different conflict, and I really do think he forgets that sometimes, along with a lot of MAGA. Secondly, you hear him mention what I said earlier is going around the MAGA world, being that Biden is trying to sabotage Trump. According to some reporting, this is a response to Russia deploying more than 10,000 North Korean troops inside Ukraine. And according to some other reporting, it's also being said that this is part of a response where that the United States and the Western allies at large are a little bit worried that Russia's major offense they're about to do into Kursk to retake the region could hinder future peace negotiations. So they're trying to give Ukraine whatever they need so they can try to hinder Russia's progress. Will it work? We'll see. Does Benny forget, or maybe he doesn't realize, that Biden already authorized Ukraine to start doing limited strikes inside Russia back in May of this year? Was that also to sabotage somebody back then when they made that decision? Oh wait, no, I forgot. The reason for those limited strikes back in May of 2024 was to usher in World War III and prevent the 2024 elections from happening, which would prevent Donald Trump from entering office again. I do remember those conspiracies going around at the time. As with all conspiracies, you predict 100, you try to get 1 or 2 right, and never stop generating new ones.
Genuinely curious, if you went back 25, 30 years, the idea that Republicans would be happy for a Russian dictator helped by North Korea to invade a sovereign democratic European country and actually want Putin to keep what he's stolen would be unthinkable. I mean, I think, for example, hang on. I think, well, okay, you can answer, but I'll add this to it. I'll add this to it. Well, let me add this to it.
Allow you to categorize it that way. Nobody's happy about this.
I will, but
let me finish. He's a dictator.
Let me finish.
And nobody likes this war. I don't want this war to happen. I don't want this war to be won by. I don't want this war to be happening at all.
Oh my God, Benny gets really upset with the framing of the question here. Now, to be fair, Piers is not, I don't believe that Piers is labeling Benny as a supporter or sympathizer of Russia or North Korea, but Benny is very sensitive about this particular line of questioning. I wonder if the reason he gets so sensitive about these questions, I wonder if it has something to do with what happened to him in the last few months.
I want there to be peace. I want people to stop dying.
Yeah.
I would, much like Israel and Gaza, I want peace. I do not want this to drag on so that it creates a nuclear conflict.
Look, Benny, this is a fine point. Almost everybody, I believe if you talk to them, wishes there was no war. I love thinking about utopias as well. I wish everyone in the world could live in peace. I wish there was zero racism, discrimination, hatred, jealousy, backstabbing, and so many other things. And the question to ask Benny here is, what should the United States do? Should they have just allowed Russia to take over Ukraine, gaining all their resources, access to all their businesses, access to all their military, to their military-aged men that could be used in war, and potentially more ways to increase revenues for Russia? When Russia uses that to improve the military even further, make it bigger, make it stronger, and has access to more resources now that they could use to maybe hardball others with, what then?
Which is, if a deal was done and Putin got to keep the land he's stolen, along with Crimea, and his next action is to go and invade Poland, just as Nazi Germany did in 1939, what should America do in that position, given that Poland's part of NATO?
Again, that would be suicidal for Russia because Poland is part of NATO, and then they would.
What should America do?
Well, Article 5 would be enacted.
What do you think morally America should do in that eventuality?
I will have to leave it up to the military minds. Some of them are on this panel.
Oh, it's so fascinating how he can't just take a strong stance here. So fascinating. This is what I mean. People like Benny want a utopia, but have no practical answers once you press them.
History is repeating itself. All the claims that Putin is making about Russian speakers in the Donbass region and past territorial claims, it's the exact same argument that Hitler made in World War II, going into the Rhineland and then Czechoslovakia and, of course, Poland. And the other panel member talking about America First, we had an America First movement in 1938, 1939, 1940 to keep the United States out of World War II. I don't want to go to war. I don't like war. But sometimes democratic nations aren't given a choice.
Oh my God, I love this man, all right? I already love this man. Not throwing around buzzwords like Benny and MAGA usually do. He's using research, using his knowledge, using some history to shape his opinion. It is so refreshing to hear this, and this is fantastic so far.
What is happening today has never happened since the advent of nuclear weapons. A nuclear-powered state has said, this territory used to belong to us, we want it back, give it to us because we have nuclear weapons. This is not something the Western Alliance or the international community can tolerate. Nuclear states talking about historical claims, saying give us back territory that once belonged to us, otherwise we're going to nuke you.
This right here is a question that Benny will never, ever answer. Russia is absolutely a nuclear power who is using threats of nukes to weaken the resolve of citizens and democracies in order to get them to push their elected leaders to give in to Russia. Russia pretty much says, yeah, we're invading. So what? If you stop us, we will use nuclear weapons. If you fight back a little bit too hard, we will use nuclear weapons. And don't go outside getting any outside help, because we will also use nuclear weapons because of that.
If this works, it will embolden dictators around the world, the first group who already have nukes, to start talking about historical claims because they know the international community is not going to stop them. And any dictators that want to go and get back historical territory, they're going to want nukes. And for any smaller country who doesn't feel defended by the international community, they're also going to want nukes now, because the United States, France, UK, the democratic countries that have nuclear weapons are not going to help them. They're not going to defend them.
Bravo, Jake. Bravo. Well, let me clap one more time. Again, people who are in Benny's camp usually don't engage with the things Jake brought up. If we allow Putin to do what he wants, it will absolutely make other nuclear powers feel they can do similar. Additionally, it will also push even more countries to seek nuclear weapons to either use them for their own invasions or for their own defense, causing even more nuclear proliferation.
They immediately threatened to kick the Russians out of the Sevastopol Naval Base. Only then did the Russians change the status quo on the Crimea Peninsula, which, by the way, belonged to Russia since the 1780s, since before the American Constitution.
So did Alaska. Should we give Alaska back?
Anyway, this guy's an idiot, but if you want me to keep talking with you, Piers, I'll happily
finish your point.
This guy sounds, I'll tell you what, with this guy talking about, we just have to help them win. That's what they said for 20 years in Afghanistan.
All right, now we've switched over and we're listening to this man who looks like he spends his days in a dark room reading on how reptilians are secretly running the world. Scott said that Ukraine threatened to kick Russia outside the Sevastopol Naval Base. First off, Ukraine and Russia had a signed lease for that base, and the Russians were using it. Secondly, after Russia annexed Crimea, they had access to the base. They negated and destroyed any agreements after annexing Crimea anyways, and had access to the naval base.
Well, according to this guy, democratic revolutions are never possible. We had one in this country in 1776.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?
Wow. Okay.
Oh man, this guy is unstable, okay? I'm honestly scared of this man. I mean, look at this. Look at his eyes here.
The American people are with me, Piers, because the American people are grounded in reality. I have an article right here on my phone that I'm reading right now. It is breaking news at time of recording, Piers, that says that Joe Biden has forgiven the loan of up to the tune of $10 billion that was given to Ukrainian armed forces.
Ah, boy. Unless I'm missing something, okay? All the reporting I see says that the loans forgiven are close to $5 billion, not $10 billion. How did Benny mess up these numbers, you ask? How did he mess up the numbers by that amount? Well, he does that frequently.
Jake, your response to that?
America's not fighting this war. There's no American forces on the ground in Ukraine fighting this war for Ukraine. So just keep saying this is America's war. America shouldn't be fighting this war. American soldiers are not involved. Concerning all of the past wars that America has been involved in, we can't overlook the Cold War.
Oh God, thank you again, Jake. Thank you so much. Remember, there is no active duty U.S. military boots on the ground in Ukraine and Russia fighting against Russian soldiers that we know of. Thank you again for saying this directly to Benny, who you notice starts fumbling and bumbling immediately.
The Russians with impunity are poisoning people, destroying underwater cables, conducting cyber attacks. We're spending the money here in the United States. Defense production is ramping up here to rebuild our industrial base to keep the world safer. Peace through strength. That's the legacy of Ronald Reagan, and I don't know why I have to remind Republicans of what Ronald Reagan achieved, defeating the evil empire. And I don't understand the people on this panel who are saying, let Russia have it, let Russia obtain this population, these people, their resources, and then go to the next war.
Okay.
Poland, the Baltics, Finland.
Scott Horton's one of them.
Wait a second. Russia blew up the pipeline. Hold on. Do you believe that Russia blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Like, do you have better sourcing than the New York Times on this? Do you?
Oh my God. Listen to this absolute moron, Benny Johnson here. Jake just gave a very thought out monologue about Putin's imperial ambitions and why, in his opinion, America should step in. Benny has no response to that because he's an absolute moron and starts talking about the Nord Stream pipeline instead. This whole discussion, he's more interested in taking jabs at America and trying to do gotchas about American policy. Whew, man, what a panel. So that's my video going over the panel. If you ended up enjoying the video, hit the like button, subscribe for more content similar to this, and leave some comments if you had any thoughts on the panel, any thoughts on any of the guests on the panel. I'll catch you guys in the future. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Until the next video, take care. Bye.